Hey y'all, and welcome back to the latest episode of Code Brew. My name's Joe King, and I'm here as always with Lukewarm.
Hi. Hey, everybody.
Oh God, you sound so awful. We've had a big week. I am super excited to tell y'all. We've hit some major milestones. We've done some cool stuff this week. So I'm going to jump right in. Before we get into our disclaimer, well, you know what? Let me go ahead and hit our disclaimer real quick, because after that, it's going to be rolling. So, the views and opinions expressed on Code Brew are solely our own and do not represent the views of our employers, professional organizations, or any personal or professional affiliates. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. And, okay, so super exciting things. So, first of all, we officially hit over 1,000 downloads. Which is a big milestone. It's huge. We're very excited, and I mean we've officially surpassed the number that Luke can count up to. So
stupid. I can't. But really, have you ever counted 1,000? That sounds like such a weird use of time.
Have you never tried to figure out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I'm not saying I have. I'm just saying I can. I think I probably can, because you'll squirrel too much before you get there.
It might be a thing.
Yeah. So anyway, some other stats that I just want to share with the world. So we are in 17 countries outside the United States. So that's honestly, I'm kind of in all of that. Like people actually are listening to us in other places in the world. I have thought about. What if like somebody's like learning English by listening to this accent? I got it.
Listen, Sarah, that goes.
No, so the other thing is like we are actually in 31 states in the U.S. as well.
So fun facts: there's 17 countries at least, and at least 31 U.S. states.
Yeah, so that's super fun. Like that's. I don't think it ever occurred to me that we'd ever make it outside the United States, or that we're already outside the United States. I'm like, what? Don't these people have something better to do? But no, I'm really excited. And a few other things. So we did completely revamp our merch store. I have a brand new supplier. I have recreated all our products. And Luke's laughing because he didn't help me at all. And I'm really excited about that. You know, it's got a whole new look. I've put a good bit of effort into it. We have some cool new products for you to check out. We have coffee now. It's called the Caffeinated and Curious Medium Roast, and right now it's just coming in whole bean. So you would need to grind it up, but we're looking at expansion in the future. So if you have things that you like as far as coffee, if you have suggestions for the merch store, let me know. Because I'm open to anything else and any and all suggestions. And then the other thing is I figured out how to do discount codes on our merch store, so that's fun. And so I do have a 10% off your entire order until March 31st. So use the discount code BREWCREW10 and you'll get 10% off. So all right, now to the episode. So we last week we had Jay Easy on, and he's here again. Y'all heard his voice. He's here.
I'm here.
So we really dove off into trauma with his background in trauma ICU and my background in trauma ED. We really kind of jumped off into some fun stuff. And we really just barely scratched the surface. I mean, we didn't even make it through half our outline. So we decided to make it a two-parter, and we're just having a great time. So welcome back, Jay Easy. And we're just going to dive right back in to dealing with trauma. We have some fun topics. Now, I did leave us off with a cliffhanger on the previous episode about a patient. When do you want me to tell that story? Should I go right into it, or should I save it for later?
Oh gosh, what is it? I don't know.
You don't.
It was suffocating.
The what?
The suffocating. Okay, so we'll just go right into it. So
is this about the toilet?
No, it's not about a toilet.
What?
Oh,
it's a whole different story. We'll talk about OBGYN and how a toilet story came into it, but no, so we have, I had a patient, this was many, many years ago, and not in my current state, we'll say that. So throughout my career, I've been at multiple places. So this patient came in was a victim of a stabbing, had been stabbed in the back multiple times.
By a friend?
It's a story, bro. You gotta listen to the story. So anyway, she had been stabbed in the back multiple times, and the story that I got from the police. So I was confused because I thought she was the victim, and she was a victim in a.
She did not stab herself in the back.
No, she did not stab herself.
Where was the story going?
I know, right? So the police were treating her as if she was not a victim. And so I was very confused, and so and I was quickly corrected because she was actually under arrest. This woman had come in and found her husband or boyfriend, or I can't remember. Significant other.
That's
her
the word.
male significant other in the bed with another woman, and she had jumped on him and she suffocated him with her breast.
Oh.
And the other woman was trying to get her to stop suffocating him by stabbing her in the back.
With her breast.
Like, she was suffocating her with her breast, yeah. So that's how trauma is, y'all. Trauma is nuts, okay?
It's dramatic.
You cannot make these things up. We've got several stories, that we'll get into. But yeah, so that was the cliffhanger from last week. I had this patient, and we've, it's a very interesting situation, right? And this man.
Did he live?
No, he did die. He died. She was arrested for murder. It's not funny.
I'm crying. Those are tears.
Those are tears. It's a wild story, y'all. I can't make this up, okay? And it's wild, right? It's wild, but yeah. So trauma is wild, and we're gonna keep talking about that on today's episode. But we want to talk. So let's get into trauma surgeons. We want to talk about kind of like how to deal with trauma surgeons. They are a unique group of people. So one of the things about trauma hospitals in particular is typically being like a tertiary care facility. You're typically the highest level of care, and most of those hospitals are also teaching hospitals, academic medical centers. So it is the vast majority of trauma hospitals are going to be places where you're dealing with residents. So I do want to talk about that, how to deal with residents, particularly surgical residents, because it can be quite the trying situation. So their education level, they've residents, right? So they've graduated from medical school, and it hits July 1st, and suddenly they're doctors. And they have most of the rights and privileges that come with being a doctor. They can prescribe, they can make decisions, and yet they have no idea what they're doing.
Correct.
And so they have MD on their badge, and they don't necessarily have any of the knowledge that they need to be making major life decisions for other human beings. So we as nurses,
They have a support system.
they do have a support system.
They have an attending.
System, right? So
If they're nice to nurses, then they have nurses.
yes, they do. So like one of the things I like to talk about from a nursing standpoint is you need to know like who you're dealing with. Like you can ask like, hey, what year resident are you, or whatever. Typically there's like websites. Academic medical centers have to have websites where they've got their pictures posted, so you know who you're dealing with too. They can be a great resource. But yeah, they should have multiple levels of residency above them. So you start with interns, that's the first year, and then they have second year and third year. Trauma usually has like fourth year residents, maybe more. They have chief residents, they have fellows, and then of course there's always an attending, right? And they should have those support systems in place for them to call and ask questions, or even be with them, supervising them. Obviously, the preference from nursing staff being that they have someone supervising them all the time, but that's not always the case. And as they get more experience, your chief residents may not need much supervision. Your fellows should not need much supervision, but your interns should need a lot of supervision and should have it. So, just as a reminder, though, especially in new grad, and there's nothing worse than like a brand new doctor and a brand new nurse trying to do things together, because nobody knows what they're doing. And
So that's when, like, your S-bar, like, you really got to hammer that home with your new grad S-bar for anyone. Get them used to when they're talking to the docs. You're doing S-bar with the doc.
yes,
Because when you get the new residents in, you have to rebuild all of that with them.
yeah,
And just as nervous as the new nurse is, the trauma residents are equally as nervous.
well, and with every doctor, we do have this role, but you should remember, like, nurses are licensed for a reason. Like, we don't just follow orders blindly, we think through things.
Questioning
We
attitude.
question things. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but you know, you have to be in a situation where you can ask questions, where you should feel empowered to ask questions. And that is, it is like that when you're dealing with residents, no matter what. You really have to. So, just as a
But the
reminder,
S bar also has like a recommendation.
it does.
Correct.
So it is saying like if you don't know, there is a I'm giving you data and then I'm suggesting what we do in 99.9% of cases. Like this makes sense. So
Right.
there is some collaboration there and some hinting of you know, like when I call a provider, I know what orders I'm going to get
Right.
almost always.
Almost
Right.
always.
There's
But it's,
very few times when you're like, oh wow,
What?
this blew me away. What's this for? You know.
well, like, even when you're like that recommendation portion, because when I was a new grad and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. And I was like, typically I get to like the assessment portion, they're already spitting orders at me
Yes.
of what they
Oh, we
want.
need to do this.
So then it's like the new residents come in. I get all the way to recommendation. I'm like, you were supposed to give me orders already. What are you doing? and
It's your turn now.
yeah, that's what it's like. Okay, what do you have to do as the nurse? So that's when you would start turning to like, I would turn to you and be like, hey, you've done this for X amount of time. Run my S bar by you real quick. What do you think I should ask for? What am I looking for?
Grab a friend.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
always grabbing a friend.
Yeah.
Always.
And we, you know, we want to educate them. We want to treat them with kindness. There should be mutual respect. They're a part of the team, just like everybody else is a part of the team. So, and they can be very helpful. I mean, especially like at nighttime and stuff. They may be your lifeline to an attending and stuff. But you know, we really want just like.
But what happens when you don't agree with their orders?
Yeah, well, that is a good question. What happens?
I'm an experienced nurse, or whatever. Maybe I'm not. I don't agree with that order. Like it seems not right, or I don't feel like I'm getting the orders that I need, and it's midnight, and I feel like maybe it's because you just don't want to like wake up your attending, or maybe like you don't like that I'm questioning you, or you know whatever.
So you would go in their next line of
You're so
leadership.
good.
So we were.
Yeah.
We would
so
get really good at
there's
that.
a chain
You
command.
don't just blindly do what they tell you to do?
No.
Oh,
No, if I question anything, it went to the next
Yeah.
person. I'm like, hey, I've already talked to so-and-so. This is what they recommend.
I have a picture of the chain of command in my phone just so I can send it to them, like in case they're like, well, why are you calling my, you know, fellow attendant, you know, like whatever. So
Yeah, yeah.
going through the whole process, and I'm like, because that's
That's-
literally what we do. Like I
Yeah.
can send you a picture. Like,
Right.
How they
Because
gave
I've had somebody tell me they don't agree with it, and I'm like, no, like here, it's we have it in our yearly education.
Here you go. Is he serious? That's so scary.
Well, we want them to learn, but we have to keep things safe for our patients, right? I mean, because the patient care comes first. But if you're an experienced nurse, guiding and teaching residents can be a very rewarding experience. So keep that in mind as well. Trauma surgeons in particular, it's a high pressure job. And they can be very strong personalities, right? I mean, you have dealt with a lot of them. I've dealt with a lot of them. I have dealt with trauma surgeons who are the strong silent type. I've dealt with trauma surgeons that are whatever the opposite of that is, like the loud type. I've dealt with trauma surgeons. They come in all shapes and sizes, right? But in general, they have very strong personalities. They're very opinionated. They have the right to be, and they're very take charge. So they can be, you know, they can be intimidating to deal with. What's your experience with trauma surgeons?
I feel like my personality did not really clash with them and actually went along with them.
Yeah,
But
they seem to respect other strong personalities sometimes.
they really do. They like to take charge in the moment. They do not hesitate. Once they make the decision, they move, and it is quick.
Right. Well, it's a high speed environment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think you would have to be decisive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to be communicated with in a way that's, that's concise and to the point. Yeah, utilizing an S bar and being very, like I said, to the point with them it would be very helpful. Let's see.
And getting as much data before you call them.
Yes.
I've noticed that.
Being knowledgeable, being able to answer their questions.
Yeah.
Like have your chart open.
And be ready. And
yeah.
They're going to ask questions. What are they satin? What do they look like?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have to describe it over the phone. And even, what's the last ABG on them? Hey, I didn't get one till then. There was even times where, like, our night shift ones would come around. They're like, I just want to make sure everything's copacetic. They look okay. This looks good. They would physically assess them. And then they would put in orders, and we would get them just to have another baseline for in the morning for them.
Yeah, before they round it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they like things timely.
And structured, like we said.
They do. They like things structured. So they don't like to be questioned, but I think they respect whenever it comes from a good point of view.
Yeah, but you got to build that.
You do. You have to build a rapport for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a level of respect that you have to build with them before you can question their orders. But I mean, I also feel like these are people that don't make a lot of questionable decisions. So to get to where they are, I mean, I'm not saying they're infallible, but definitely when you get to the attending level in a trauma surgeon, you
that's when it's all cut out. Well, there is no more waxing and waning. Yeah. You get to that attending.
You get to the attending.
He's been there, done that.
Yeah,
and you don't want to get to him. When I say you don't, the residents don't want you to.
Right. So if you get to the point where you're having to bypass multiple levels of residents to get to the attending for an issue, it must be serious. So, so the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about, do you have anything else you want to say about surgeons? I think it's good to be, remember we're all part of a team when it comes to dealing with the surgeons. Sometimes they need to be reminded of that as well. So, the thing about trauma, and I can speak to this, on a personal level, it does take a mental and emotional toll on you, as a person. A lot of these cases are things that you have to process. Even as a healthcare professional after the fact, it's really important to have those healthy coping mechanisms, and relying on your team. So, I mean, you're gonna see a lot of losses that are hard. You will see people thrive. People survive injuries that you didn't expect. I mean, I've seen people survive things that, I'm still just completely dumbfounded. They need to play the lottery or something because they survived something that I never thought somebody would have made it through. So, and you do have things that haunt you. I mean, there's cases, and I'm sure you can, speak to that as well. There's cases that you can't ever really let go of. So,
well, what are things that you would say are most risky? Like you would say, don't drive ATVs, just based on what you've seen. You're like, I don't think I'd ever drive an ATV. I don't think I'd ever
No, I mean, I have to say, I mean, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but as much time I spent in trauma, I don't think I'll ever get on a motorcycle. I have seen so many devastating injuries and so many people die as a result of riding on a motorcycle. And it really isn't because the acts of the person driving the motorcycle. It's typically the actions of the people around you. And you don't have anything to protect you really, other than like a helmet. Hopefully, my God, always wear a helmet, and then like, a thin layer of clothes. Like, and even if you're wearing like the protective exoskeleton type clothes, I mean, that's really no match for highway speed, So, I mean, people lose a foot, lose a leg, I mean, lose their life just as a result of like hitting some gravel on the interstate. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like it's really risky. I mean, you do see a lot of things with kids on ATVs. So, if you're, and I don't say like particularly ATVs out in the country, obviously never drive them on a road, because most of the most deadly things I've seen have been a result of people driving ATVs on the road, where they shouldn't have been, and they tangled with an actual road legal vehicle, at a high rate of speed, and then again, there was nothing to protect them. But yeah, I mean,
So is it generally from like carelessness? Like, they're not like exploding, right? Like, I mean, like,
no.
you're driving something in an area that you shouldn't drive it in, or like drinking. Like, is that like?
Well, I mean,
drinking some of it,
yeah,
like hold my beer moments.
Yeah,
like the 4th of July, you have individuals, like the mortars. If it doesn't go off, don't put your head over it.
Right.
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Don't
go work it in there.
Man, spray it with water. I was like, if you have a firework and you light it and it does not go off, don't go pick it up. Go spray it with some water, because like if you go pick it up, it's gonna go off and it's gonna blow your hand off. Yeah.
But it's like everything. So like
things that happen. People lose eyes and hands all the time doing that kind of stuff.
Well, and then like she was talking about the motorcycles. 9 out of 10, it's some other car not paying attention.
Yeah.
But it's not just, it's to what you were saying, it's carelessness.
Yeah.
Like, you're walking across the street, you better be, like, watching all traffic. Because I've seen pedestrians versus autos, and it's been a red light the whole time. They're like 3/4 of the way through, and a guy just blows through the light.
They're not paying attention.
Because
I mean, like, when you're on a motorcycle, you're a lot smaller than a car, you're harder to see. Especially, like, at nighttime.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just like, no, for sure.
Honestly, even like with bikes, like regular bikes.
Yeah.
Like I'll see, like, so they're supposed to drive on the road, I think, right?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be on sideways.
Yeah.
But I'll see them all the time not stop. So they're supposed to drive on the road, but like, it's not everyone, but they're not stopping at the stoplights.
Yeah, they're not obeying those street laws.
Freaking dangerous. Like, oh my gosh, like you're street legal or whatever, and then you just like slow down and then just ran. Like, you can't have both, like the freedom of the street and then no street rules, So it is kind of, I'm kind of like,
people don't educate themselves. Well, I mean, people don't educate themselves on a lot of things, but they don't educate themselves on the rules of the road. I mean, and like,
but people would probably ask you why you wear your helmet, like walking from your car to.
I don't wear a helmet. You're so dumb. No, y'all. I will say. Speaking of helmet, I think we touched on it briefly. I tell you, if you're not wearing a helmet on a bike, a motorcycle, 4-wheeler, it doesn't matter. Like you need to be wearing a helmet.
And we have some for sale.
No, we don't have any for sale. You're such a jerk.
I love you.
No, it's that So I've been in states. Like I think. I one time worked in South Carolina, and I loved my time there. I was in the Myrtle Beach area. And I remember, like, I was, like, driving there for the first time for my travel nurse contract and, like, crossed the line to South Carolina. I've probably been in South Carolina for 5 minutes. And, like, this guy rides by me on a motorcycle. He has no helmet on. He has, like, a completely bald head, kind of like Luke's. And,
Me?
Yeah. And, like, I was like, oh, my gosh, like, this guy doesn't have a helmet on this motorcycle. And I guess I had never lived in a state where it was, it is required by law in a lot of states to wear a helmet on your motorcycle. So this guy...
So Mississippi has
you do
stronger laws than South Carolina.
Helmet.
I'm going to tell you, South Carolina's wild.
I mean, I'll be honest, I love South Carolina. I had a great time there. I really enjoyed my time there, actually. But I'm telling you, I was completely flabbergasted whenever that guy rode by me on the motorcycle. I had to, like, look it up. Like, is it required to wear a motorcycle helmet? Because, I mean, and I just can't even imagine. Like, I mean, you talk about your brain splattered over the highway. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. That actually happens. It makes me nervous. What?
Oh, there's a nickname for helmets that some people use.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know. People call them brain
God.
buckets. Yeah.
Brain buckets?
Yeah.
Buckets?
Brain buckets.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason for it is
I've lived such a sheltered life.
individuals,
Never eat my butt.
there may have been a time where a physician went to go remove a helmet off
Oh.
a person.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're a nurse. Man up. No.
I've realized, like, in my old age, my wise age,
Oh my God.
I don't think burns are for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever want to take a helmet off someone and have that. Like, I'm not.
Actually,
The
like,
burn nurses, whoever
Like,
they are, kudos to them.
oh my gosh, burn nurses, you're like literally angels walking on earth. The amount of pain that those patients are
Steven
in.
Johnson's, my gosh.
Well, then,
Whenever I see those cases and burn,
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
could not.
like 3 hours.
Like
Yeah.
having to like
In
scrub
heat
them.
lamps.
They're like, yeah,
Oh
they're
my
all their
God.
skin's just gonna slough off, and that's
Yeah.
their finger sheath. It's just degloving. You know, they're like, their skin's gonna be so pretty when it comes back, and I'm just like,
Oh my gosh, I
what? This
know.
person has no skin. It's falling off.
Reminds me of
It
what,
makes me like, I don't know, what?
what was that movie? We Were Soldiers or something like that.
Gosh, yeah.
Or the napalm. The guy gets struck by the napalm,
Y'all, this,
and the reporter goes to pick him up and grabs him by his leg, and he basically degloves his entire leg.
Gross.
Yes. No, I mean we're nurses, but we are nurses, and we can't handle the burn stuff. Like, so these people, you nurses out there that are doing burn stuff, like,
Kudos.
I mean, you're doing the Lord's work for sure. I mean, one of the coping mechanisms we have, whether it's healthy or not, I'm not really sure, but we do have quite the dark sense of humor. I'm sure y'all have experienced that
Oh
with
my
us.
gosh! First code, I was like an extern or something, where they were like patient codes. Everything's going great, right? Like it's like right out of a movie.
Except for
But I'm listening. Well, the team dynamics, the medicines, like looking back, I'm like, this is one of the most well-run codes that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Still, right?
yeah.
And they're like doing everything that they need to do, running it perfectly, but talking about the tanning bed. They're like, did you know about the tanning special this week? And it's just going on while they're doing like chest compressions and whatever. And I mean, I went home and I was like, this is the craziest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. And maybe it's not dark humor, but I guess it's like an ability to detach
Yeah.
and
Compartmentalize.
stay very
Yeah.
calm in a very difficult situation because everything went great. But just like I was, like I'm always like another spot in the room, like, how is this conversation perceived or whatever, that's always me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, had somebody been in here, like they would have thought we were all
and that's
nuts.
the reason.
Ran great, did everything we need to, but and then I was like, oh my gosh, like that level of detachment in such a high intensity situation makes you perform better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It
Okay,
really does.
that's why you freak out.
So yeah, we're able to like take our emotions out
Control
of it
the narrative.
and think through things in a different way. I think
Yeah, it's like not fear. It's like, I'm going to push the fear to the side. And
Yeah.
if I need to process it, I'll process it
yeah,
later.
I mean,
Uh,
and that's
Now's not the time. Let's get Molly back.
it's a super valuable skill, but also like if you don't take the time to unpack those things later, it can affect you down the road. Like, I mean, I have cases that I don't think I ever unpacked, and now I know like they will pop up in very strange times, and I'll see faces of people and remember situations that like because I didn't deal with them because I didn't recognize that these things were hiding out somewhere in my brain. So like it's important. It's very important to have that compartmentalization in the moment, and it's equally as important to have that debriefing after the fact. And the debriefing sometimes looks like, I mean, you can have a moment of silence. I love that practice, having a moment of silence whenever somebody passes away and stuff. I don't think we do it all the time, but it is a great practice.
Well, do you guys know anyone in the military? Like, outside of this?
Do I know anybody? I know several
I'd
people.
take them to Lowe's if I did. Actually, what are you doing after this?
So they're like the dark side. Like, I equate the dark side that I saw to equivalent to what I had in the military.
Oh, absolutely.
You have the detachment, but some of the things that would come out of the mouths of some of these nurses, I felt right at home with a lot of them. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I know exactly what you
Haunting.
reminded me. You reminded me of so-and-so. But it's just that level that they get to, sometimes just to work through it, is amazing.
Oh, I like that.
It is. It is. So we have like such like a dark sense of humor. And now I will say this: whenever you go in and code, it's okay for you to have that level of detachment. Just make sure you do like
Keep it
maintain
professional.
your professional, especially in this day and age where we are allowing families to be at the bedside and be like
Which benefits them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
very
is. I
beneficial for closure.
We did all that we
and-
could, or I didn't know we were asking for this. You know, then
Yes.
they're like, oh, I didn't know what everything
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah, now I'm saying
do this.
So
Mom did not want this.
Yeah, so
This
don't
is
talk
Grey's
about the
Anatomy.
tanning bed whenever the family's right there experiencing their last moments, you know. So speaking of dark humor, okay, so I was inspired. I was inspired this week. Just a few days ago, you know, I was inspired by a tattoo on a patient to talk about tattoos on patients. This is going to be one of my favorite topics of the podcast, just so y'all are clear.
Uh-oh.
And I gotta start with the one that inspired me, right? So like, you know, taking care of a patient, she, you know, intubated, and we were taking care of her, and we were doing a full assessment as you do, helping her out of her clothes. Well, we were taking her clothes off because she was intubated, but she had a tattoo, and apparently she's someone's property. It's attached. You know.
I've seen the property tattoos.
Yeah,
I hate
property
'em.
of someone else.
I mean, do your thing, you know, but come on. Oh,
mean,
God.
She did have a gentleman's full name, first and
Look,
last.
this is like a sign of human trafficking. Like,
I don't know.
property. I mean, that sounds like somebody's getting out a
Well, they did have the same last name, so maybe
poker
they
and
were-
branding you.
It
Like,
wasn't a brand. Oh my gosh, don't make it like that. She wasn't a cow. But it's pretty funny, right? I mean, we see a lot. So, you have one. You have one that you wanted to talk about. I got several.
I've got none.
You got none?
Oh my gosh. come
Well,
on.
Well, clearly I've been taking care of the great people of this
No, I mean,
area.
the ones that, you know, like there are the ones that I'm always like, oh God, like a swastika or something. You know, I'm like, oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah, we've had those.
I'm uncomfortable.
Okay.
Uh,
And just so y'all are, if this gets out, we do not judge you for having tattoos that maybe were like, you know, I mean, but you know, swastikas aren't a great choice. We're
Well.
gonna say that. But yeah, no, we see those things too. But I want to talk about the funny ones. Okay, what you got?
All right, so we had a patient. I do not remember anything about this one. All I remember is right above her vaginal area, it said all you can eat.
Oh. Oh.
So tasteful.
I just remember
Uh,
I got yelled at because I laughed. And it was, well, it was at the bedside. It was not appropriate. No one else was in there besides my charge nurse.
You're supposed
And that individual,
to cry for humanity.
well,
No.
it was just something they ingrained at bedside. You remain professional. And because I started laughing, and I'll be honest, it was uncontrollable.
Bad, but so, okay, so I want to tell the other two that I've seen that really got me tickled. Okay, and then I want to share some of the ones that other people have shared with me. So,
I've got one.
you have one?
So it's not on a big.
Where's
Is
it
on
at?
You?
No. I have a Band-Aid
You do have a Band-Aid tattoo.
on the back of my arm.
Yeah.
I let him put a shadow on it so it looks like a dirty Band-Aid that's kind of like, is it on this arm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like a dirty Band-Aid that's kind of like hanging off.
The shadow's on the wrong side, though.
Poor decisions were made.
It was supposed to make me look, it hangs out like below my sleeve. It's supposed to make me look like tough. When I was at like the Red Box getting
Oh.
my movie.
Oh,
You know, somebody's like behind me.
Yeah, that's-
what make you look tough. Yeah, poor. Let's hear your other tattoo.
So this week on Love is Blind,
Oh God.
the girl, she
Of course
has
it's Love is
on the
Blind.
inside of her bottom lip, I love Taco Bell. But like
I respect.
it's a great tattoo. She didn't want her mom to see it. And then, you know, your mucosal areas, that you know, that skin
Yeah.
changes so frequently.
Yeah.
It just says, I love Taco B right now. I really like Taco Bell.
Listen,
I can't
I love
afford
Taco
Taco Bell anymore.
How
I
much
love
that?
Taco Bell.
How
How
much
much does it
that?
cost? A lot.
That's
Taco
got to
Bell?
be like super painful.
Oh, I thought you were saying how much does Taco Bell cost? I'm like, it's like $14.
I clearly
for a
don't
burrito.
question.
Okay.
He wants to talk about how expensive Taco Bell is. No,
I want to talk
We're
about
talking
one of
about-
your last trips to Taco Bell.
no
That
we're
was a
not.
medical condition.
Back to tattoos. Thank God. Oh God, I hate you so much. Okay, so tattoos, right? So one of my favorite ones, I think probably my top one actually. Being from the country, there was a patient that we had who had on his body "Raise Hell and Praise Dale."
Yes.
Dale Earnhardt, may he rest in peace. And
Oh, you know him.
He was.
it was a patient.
Dale Earnhardt?
Oh no, I
No,
don't
he
know.
was a race car.
But you know he's no longer like
Drover?
he's not here. Oh, did he die
NASCAR?
driving?
Well, the
He
senior
died
one,
driving?
Yeah,
Dale Earnhardt Senior.
Oh,
died.
while we're talking about trauma?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, he was like I think he was like a C1 probably.
I think it was an Atlas, yeah.
Yeah,
He internally decapitated.
yeah, he was.
He died instantly.
Well,
It was terrible.
this was the trauma tattoo story.
It was on national TV. It was like what was it?
Daytona 500.
Yeah, it was a Daytona. Yeah,
Yeah, like an Atlas or like an internal
Yeah.
decapitation.
he's one of the reasons why they all are using like this like cowboy collar type deal now. Whenever they drive, like there's like this whole harness thing they put in to keep their heads from snapping back. Like,
And there's no fixing it.
oh, not that kind of fracture. No, I mean he was basically killed instantly.
Yeah, I've never seen this show.
Oh my god.
Like, it's
You
not
should-
a show. It's
it's not-
NASCAR.
It's
They
on TV.
drive in a circle
Wow.
really fast, very fast.
And make a left turn.
Yourself so
Well,
damn way. I know there's good people watching
the
about.
KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. They
Yeah.
drive in a circle fast.
And making a left turn.
A lot of left turns. In fact, perpetual left turns.
Oh, I was like, why not?
Have you ever seen Jeff Dunham? With the ventriloquist with the puppets and all that?
Does he drop for NASCAR?
I'm gonna have to lower your expectations in this world.
My expectations are low.
Let me help you. Lower your quality.
We're going back to tattoos, guys. We gotta
Oh,
stay
sorry.
on topic. Jeez. Okay, my other one that I saw was a guy had in his pubic hair. He had a tattoo of a guy mowing the lawn.
What?
It was awesome.
That's cute. But did he like shave part of it to make it kind of
Yeah.
cute? Oh, that's
I mean,
nice.
I think it.
So he's like, well-
it was ready for a mow.
It was well pimped at
It
some
was,
point, probably.
yeah. I mean, the intention was clear. So.
Oh my god, I wish I could have seen that one.
I liked it so much. So obviously it stuck with me. So two.
Have you ever seen the guys that are so hairy they shave their chest hair and they have like neckties or they have vests or they make
No, as a lesbian,
I've
I
seen
specifically
like a
don't
shirt
like
or something. There was something weird. Yeah.
I don't like hair.
we had a family do that to their left one. It was
I
great.
feel like I'm gonna see something crazy like tomorrow.
I hope you do. Any crazy not tattoos, but like piercings? Or like you're like, whoop, didn't know that was there.
I've taken. Well, no, yes, I have had an incidental finding. It wasn't a piercing though. Like there was like a cultural thing. Like the guy had at some point had like stones put into his penis so that it was ribbed.
I saw penis stone before.
Yeah, it was like an incidental finding on CD. It was there for something completely different. We were like, sir, did you know that you had some circular items in your penis? Yeah, it was weird. But he was like, yeah, I know. It's like a cultural
Everyone
thing.
in my family does.
Well, he didn't say that, but it was like in his country, it was, I guess, more common in his tribe or something. He was from obviously somewhere.
With stones.
I don't know. I've only seen it with the one guy. But yeah.
It's funny how much you
But that's
forget
not really
about. But that
considered
is
that's not really a piercing.
that's a body
It's
modification.
a modification. What?
I didn't even think of that. That's
Don't go have it done. If you do, please see an actual urologist.
absolutely not. But now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Body modifications. So I have two tattoo stories, okay? First one came from Kim Possible, one of our supporters. She had a patient who had teddy bears on her breasts, and the nose of the teddy bear was her nipples.
Oh,
Phenomenal.
With gravity, it did appear more like a reindeer.
Oh, man.
And those got longer.
oh,
Oh,
that's cute.
it's cute. Yeah,
Like it
okay.
ages with you.
It
You
just
grow
it
into
gets better with it. It's like wine. Better with age. Okay, so my last tattoo story, because I cannot keep you all on track. It's like really hurting cats in here right now.
I'm so sorry.
Another one of our fans, she was taking care of someone who was incarcerated, and she was like a brand new nurse, and so she went in and she was like introducing herself and being all bubbly. Her name's Michelle, which was really funny because the tattoo is I hate Michelle, that was tattooed across this person's forearm.
First time meeting her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Was it spelled the
And
same?
was it
Yeah.
all Michelle's?
I don't know.
Was it her first
She
and last
didn't
name?
question it. I was like, that's when you change your name to Nikki or Pam or something. I don't know. Okay, so we kind of have to get back on track. Are there any other tattoos that you'd like to share with the world?
Not at this point, no, ma'am.
Okay, but I want to revisit this later because I really like this idea of tattoos.
Well, probably after tomorrow.
Oh, you know what? I do want to share. I want to get a tattoo. I have an idea.
What are we
And
getting?
I've actually, this is kind of a bridge from someone else. I did see someone else have it. Y'all, I want a tattoo of a raccoon holding the paddles of a defibrillator with like the life pack. And I want it tattooed on me. Because I like raccoons and I'm kind of feral. And I know how to use a life pack.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be a secret story behind it,
No.
and I was trying to figure it out, and now I know it.
Yeah, I mean, it basically goes back to just me being like a fair. I mean, you can kind of see me that way.
Yeah, right after you explained it, this
Yeah.
all
This really tracks.
mapped out.
Yeah.
Are you going to get another?
It takes him
Tattoo
a while
look.
to catch up. Give him 10 minutes and then he'll
No.
comment on it.
No, I was
But-
thinking if raccoon was like the perfect animal. I was thinking like beaver or something.
No, I'm not gonna. I hate you so much.
Is that because the like growing up in the wildlife, like with your family and forestry? Is this?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's not gonna make my parents super proud if that's what you're asking. They've been trusted. I think they've lowered their expectations for me at this point.
I mean, but you just tell them it's like a shout out, like it's a homage, homage,
Yeah.
tip top. Coming off of being sick,
The dishwater is spilling out in the sink.
it is.
He's falling off the stool. Okay, so trauma culture, from the ICU, I mean, honestly, all the way through from trauma, like, the team dynamic is huge. So, back on track with, serious topics because we are such serious people. What makes a good trauma ICU teammate? Who do you like to work alongside?
I'll just describe the people that I had. My charge nurse had like 10 plus years of experience.
Okay.
I had another individual, he liked numbers. Everyone was very good in the beginning. That's like your fast-paced arena, but then he liked to get everything down to a science. He would like to get crunch numbers. I'll give you, for instance, he put a patient on a fentanyl drip, and he told me it was at 37.5, and I don't remember what the rest of it was. But 37.5 was not on my register by any stretch of the means, but it was honed in and tuned perfectly to
What
that
the patient needed.
I'll never forget that. So then I went and first did my first assessment.
I'm impressed.
That patient was not attuned to that number because they started wiling out. And I went up.
Really?
People change.
And that's what he said.
Situations.
Just like that, too. With that face the whole time. I was so...
My nurturing things.
Oh, yeah. And he would stood across from the bed every day and he goes, people change.
Well, I did.
And I feel
Like I don't let people ride out at the same rates. I'm always trying to get like the rates to the lowest
Oh, yeah.
possible
Yeah.
to like reduce reliance and
Yeah.
let the bodies start picking back up. I mean, like you have people that'll let a map ride at 80 all night long with a goal of 65 because they're like,
Ooh,
well, it's above 65, and I'm like, okay, but if I can have them on half the Levofed and
Right.
have them at 70, and maybe I've got to go up once or twice, like, I like the calculations. Like, I'm so big into the calculations.
All right, so he would be my fine tuner, and he would drive me insane.
Well, I switched it to this, and then this, and then this.
Just write one down.
You'll see my RAS and CPOT turn it 475 times throughout the shift from all. No, not really.
And then I had the ones that were like the generalist. It went, because when I was at the time, nothing was weight based. It was you and I get the same amount of Levofed regardless of our weight. Did not matter when I was doing it. Now it matters.
But I'm obviously smaller than you.
Correct.
Just had to throw it in there.
I
Actually,
you say like a whole bag of popcorn by
I can eat 6 of them, no problem. But it was the generalist. We knew how it kind of worked in the grand schemes. We understood everything.
that's weird. So not weight based.
It was not. I remember having to call other facilities to bring patients to them. And I would emphasize, before I tell you these numbers, I want you to understand nothing is weight-based.
I mean, those little gradings were
They were
living
good.
them up on some medicine.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I like. I think it's always been for me.
It always has been.
I think it always was.
So it just kind of shows you how we evolved and like how different each area was. I mean, even in this small community.
It's like we just give them a tablespoon of fentanyl.
So like the fentanyl, not dress right, dress across the board, but your
We
Levofed,
just
your
run a bottle an hour. Like there's no
Oh, man.
dose. You know, just the bottle an hour. That's what we do.
No, I
Just saying.
I hear you.
So I mean, the calculations are hard whenever it's weight based, yes, but like, so I used to be able to calculate things really well in my head, but only at like the certain concentration that we don't really use very much anymore.
Oh, you're that nurse.
Yeah. So like we don't use the as high of concentrations of Levofed anymore. So
Right.
I can't calculate it at like what we use now, but when we used to use like I think it was like 64 and 250 or something. Or I can't, yeah, but that was it. Like I could calculate those like super easy. And
So she would be the one I call on and be like,
She's
I'm like,
always
hey.
walking around with her TI-84 calculator.
oh my
Have you
God.
seen her?
that's way too advanced for this, all right?
She always walks
No,
around.
I didn't need a TI-84 because I have a brain.
If you ever look in her
sorry, no
pocket,
laughing.
there's like this big old calculator that she carries around.
Yeah,
And then
that's not a calculator. I'm just happy to see you. What?
You keep that happiness out of here.
God. No. So
Give me a taco.
my thing is, so who are you as a nurse? I want to figure out what the heck's going on. My patients are like puzzles to me.
oh,
My patients are like
So you-
puzzles to me.
But you're dumb and I'm smart. That's the difference.
This is a culture of building up nurses.
not tearing down.
She didn't mean that.
So we're also going to get into that too.
But yeah, that's our next topic. Avoiding the nurses who eat their young. If you were young, this would apply to you.
You got to be able to take some razzing too, though,
Oh yeah, well,
because we all make mistakes,
oh yeah,
But-
for sure.
and we're all going to send it.
I made 3 today.
Yeah, we definitely were doing a partial NIH on you.
Yeah,
Oh, I meant on my exam.
he took an exam.
That's right. Sorry, I was slow on that catch.
Hate you. We hate you. No, so yeah, for real though, eating their young, I absolutely 100% despise that culture. Like, I was raised by nurses who didn't behave that way. Now, there were a few who were like kind of on their way out in their, close to retirement phase whenever I was getting started, that like would try that kind of stuff with me. But honestly, like, I was raised by people who didn't behave that way. They had higher expectations for themselves and for me and for others. And it shows.
What's a culture you create? I mean, there are units that are great, and there are units that, can you believe what she just did? Like, she asked this question twice.
yeah.
It's like,
But I
yeah,
hate it.
I still ask that question.
It's
Like,
called the KISS method.
so, some units are really good with it, but I mean, like, eat your young. I mean, like, even at the clinical level, like
Oh,
we're
yeah.
eating like the eggs, or I don't know what that would be, but
You're talking
uh,
about students, or you're calling them eggs?
well, if
We
you're
have a
saying
lot of students.
young, I'm thinking
Yeah,
about like
students,
little
he just called
babies.
you
Like I don't know.
eggs.
We're eating
They're still
peanuts.
embryos.
We're eating embryos. Ooh.
So how do we do it at the clinical level? I'm just curious.
I mean, like if a student has a good
Oh,
clinical experience, their whole cohort knows, and everybody wants to work
Okay.
here. If a student walks into a unit and the nurse goes, I don't want a student today, which happens at multiple
makes
hospitals
me furious.
every semester.
I love students.
Um, you know,
I hope students
just
have a
know
good
that the
level.
entire cohort hears about that as well.
Yeah.
And those bad experiences. I mean, we know like the bad experiences spread a lot faster than the positive experience. I know from my 2 weeks of working at Home Depot the statistics on if what about the complaint. Like if you have a problem with something, you tell at least, what is it, 10 people.
Yeah.
But if I'm happy about something,
You like to like one.
yeah,
Yeah.
tell like one.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to tell everybody. I'm going to tell everyone I meet for the rest of my life if I'm happy about like a sale or a deal. So I'm kind of like the opposite of that. But
Yeah.
but you're going to know if I'm disgruntled as well, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so losing your clinical students even before you get, them as onboarding new hires, that's a culture that you really, really need to fix, because you're never going to be able to staff that.
I don't understand though. Like, why do people not want to take students? Honestly, it is your
I love
responsibility
it.
as a
Oh
part
my
of the
gosh.
profession.
I'll teach you whatever
To
you
bring
want.
up
You're going to
other
help
people.
me turn my patients and ambulate. We can learn all the assessment you want. You're giving my knees 2 more years, 3 more years. I want to see it in every shift.
I like teaching them about how to about house manager stuff, because they but prior to coming to be a house manager, they have no understanding for
The grand view.
the big view of the hospital, like staffing and how it affects things,
Yeah.
and like the flow, about how
It's kind of cool we have that in orientation now.
it is great.
Yeah.
It is
So
like,
people can actually see like an understanding of what is going on in other areas, rather than like, why am I always getting this admission? We have such a limited, we're on our units, a limited perspective of what is going on in the hospital. Like, why are they trying to send me this patient from PACU?
Yeah.
Why do I have to take a report from the ED? Not realizing these are like bottleneck areas where we're
Right.
stopping surgeries. The ED never gets to say no.
Or I like explaining to people too, like when I have the students, I show them like our outlying like admissions, like from other facilities, and I'm like, okay, so this patient needs a cabbage, and they're at a facility that doesn't even have a cath lab. So, like, they're literally at a place that cannot provide them what they need at all. Not even close. Not even, like, limited intervention. And so they need to come here, and I have to prioritize that. So, like, this person, the weight of this person's health is something I'm carrying because I know I need to make a space for them. Or this person is at this facility, and they have, like, this sounds like something simple, but they've cut off 2 fingers. And we are one of the best places in the world to help them with that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if I don't get them here soon, if I don't prioritize that, they're never, like, the chance of them having any kind of function in those fingers, maybe actually having those fingers reattached, it's non-existent. They're going to go through life without 2 fingers. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. Like,
Doesn't sound like, it sounds like a pretty big
well,
deal.
it's quality of life for someone. What if they work with their hands? What if they're in construction? What if they paint? What if they like to hold a coffee cup? Because I think I would need at least, how many fingers do you need to hold a coffee cup? We're all trying to figure it out.
The 2,
But
right?
like you carry, like, so as house, like you carry that weight of people at other places, like across the state or wherever you're at, because they're at places that are they have limited resources, and those places have a place. Like they are doing they're meeting the needs of those communities, and but they can't sustain things like a cath lab or brain surgery or God knows whatever. They can't sustain those kind of things. They don't need them all the time. So when a patient goes in there for emergency care, like, they are getting them to the most appropriate next level of care, and we have to recognize that they can't get what they need there. So, but anyways, I like for students to really understand the role of hospitals in a system, which is much greater than, like, you're part of a much larger system than what you realize. Like, you're taking care of these 4 or 5 patients, maybe 6 patients, and when you get a bed open, you may be creating a resource for someone 200 miles away.
Yep.
So, and the faster you get you prioritize getting your discharge out, because the ride's already been here for 30 minutes, and that's increasing the chance of a positive outcome for someone far away. So, anyways, how did we get on that? I'm not really sure.
Well,
anyways, I like to teach.
I love teaching. I think that's why we all do this, and
Yeah.
we don't get burned out. Certain things we get burned out on, but I don't
get burned out on teaching.
Not on teaching. I enjoyed that. Now, I had my way of doing it, and it wasn't always the best way. So
no. Well, I mean, I feel like I'm amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. My way is always the best way.
I'm sure of that. Positive.
No. So, surviving as a new trauma ICU nurse.
I think the biggest thing, I'm just going to go to my tip.
You want to go to your tip?
Well, I think so. And the reason I say that, the way to
does
survive being any nurse in any facility at any level is you find the experienced nurses. I don't care if they have 6 months more experience than you. That's more than what you got.
Right.
They've been exposed to something. They understand it. Learn from those nurses and buddy up with people that push you to be better. I know I did, and I know I earned and learned a lot from those nurses.
Right.
And it was even, okay, I've done this. What else can I do? And if you've covered all the bases, they come talk to you.
Yeah, no, I had those people for me that I identified, and then, and I'm really proud to be that for some people now. And I'm usually always pretty much open to questions, I would say, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to, like, patient safety and like providing care and like the quality of care and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to identify people who can help you grow. I mean, that should be one of your first tasks when you start anywhere new.
Yeah.
So, and just like being teachable. We've touched on that before, but you're not going to experience growth if you're not open to feedback.
Yeah, you're going to have to move yourself into those uncomfortable situations so that you can grow.
Yeah. You have to be open to it. You have to be, really like in a state where you're moldable. Is that what I'm trying to think of?
Well, assume a positive intent. Like, I mean, like,
always assume
no one wants to, I mean, yeah, some people like conflict, but like, I dread some of these conversations where I have to give feedback to people that need it, and I'm like, I know this person's not going to be receptive. Like, it's not like, I'm doing it out of like a duty and an obligation to like, I need you to be a better nurse. I need you to step up and, understand this, whatever, or understand this process. But, like, it's not like it makes me comfortable to, like, it's like I'm like enjoying, like, I'm actually like making myself uncomfortable to try to make you a better nurse or make you better understand a topic. So, to automatically look at that as like as it's something like I'm coming for you or whatever. When I'm really like getting out of my comfort zone to try to better us as a profession, better you, or just have a discussion about a care process, care delivery, something like that. having the mindset that it's coming from a good place means something.
Yeah.
How many nurses have you failed through orientation?
Have I failed?
Yeah, like you outright were like, this is not the right career choice for you.
Two that come to mind.
Out of how many?
Oh gosh, I don't know how many. Not, I mean, a lot.
So the percentage is pretty low for you. The number that you're like
Yeah,
outright
I mean,
no.
I think
So like completely
0.
fail someone?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's very low. I
I
mean,
think mine's 0. Yeah.
and it wasn't like you can't be a nurse. Like for me, it was like I don't think you can be an ED nurse.
You can't be a nurse here. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like let me push you. Like, maybe you shouldn't be working in critical care.
Right,
you know,
right.
and my thoughts on, like, a new grad working in critical care anyways are not, the greatest. So,
Well, in the ED sometimes, I mean, it depends on the level of the ED, but generally, like, not everybody's cut out for ED. Like, some people, I mean, it's...
some people have attention spans.
Well, yeah.
So
Well,
you can
yeah.
work.
I mean, that's part of it. But, I mean, some people, you really deal with some harsh situations, and some people just, like, you can be almost, like, too tender-hearted to work in the ED sometimes. Like, things can really, like, hurt your feelings. And also, like, I don't know, like, you have to be really capable of critical thinking and prioritizing in a way that maybe like some other places you don't have to as much, at least not at the same level.
That's interesting. Because I can only think of one person that I failed through orientation in my arena.
I feel guilty now
Why?
because I had to do two.
I mean,
Yeah,
there are people that aren't right fits, and
Right.
sometimes they put people that they know, like, they're like, hey, like, this person's been through 3 preceptors. We don't think they're going to make it, but if anybody can fix them, you can fix them. You know, like, so maybe you're that extra, love and tenderness,
Love and tenderness.
as
I
our-
don't know if anybody
as
said that
our-
when they think of me.
exit to the door.
But
I
I can only think of that one. You can only think of,
none.
like, I shouldn't even say, like,
It
hey,
is-
just completely out of the wrong profession. It's like, not probably the best arena for you.
Yeah,
I need you to go outside of this one.
yeah.
And, like, not trauma, no ICU. Build yourself up. You got a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there are some
Well,
people.
but it's
for
nice
me-
when you actually, like, are able to, like, achieve a goal, not just, like, hand it,
Yeah.
this very complex job. Like,
Yeah.
if you're actually, like, going through the steps of, starting out, learning nursing, learning escalation, learning policies, procedures, and a lower level of care, getting certified, like, working yourself up to where you actually can properly care for the patients and have the education and the skill set, that is obviously beneficial.
Is that your punchline for no new grads in the ICU?
I mean, that's always my punchline.
Yeah,
It's not a punchline that students like, but I mean, I think that we should be, every hospital system in the market would have to say we're not going to hire new grads into the ICU, but the answer is you get people at the table and you say, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to you'll be 1 month step down, 1 month ICU, 1 month step down, 1 month ICU.
Oh, like a career mobility
So
ladder.
then they at least understand when they have a downgrade and they're sending out a pretty complex patient to a 5-patient team
Well, can you
when
even
there's
question-
maybe another patient that they could have picked.
Well, even questioning, hey, this probably isn't the best one to send out
Well,
at current
Yes,
state.
yeah. So we have a lot of nurses that, in ICU that have never worked the floor.
Right.
And they are not able to, like, they're not able to understand how really sick those patients are and how sometimes it doesn't look very much different than the patients that they're caring for in the ICU.
Yep.
But
And when their aid gets pulled, and everyone is sitting at the desk at 9:30 a.m. talking about it over their coffee, and there's 10 people, and I could come out and get 455 people to co-sign my Lantus, and then thinking about the floor experience where I'm like, hello. I need a co-signature. Hello? Bob, I'll be right there. Bob, 1 second.
I'm texting you. Hold on.
But,
I get it.
So it's, they should have the understanding of what it is like to work on the floor. And honestly, I think that we should be having them flip back and forth. And yes, you could be hired into a specific ICU position, but not. I don't think new grads should be there.
We have something built for that. We should talk about it later. Find out.
Talk about case mix index. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean our case mix index is
like,
very wild.
I want people to really understand the system, right? Because I went into it. I started
which system? Cardiovascular.
Healthcare system.
But it would also cardiovascular.
I would like for you to know those systems.
The systems.
Yeah.
Escalation.
Please know the system. No, I just like the system. Like, I think I went into it very naive. Like, I was like a volunteer firefighter and an EMT, and then, and I definitely didn't have a grasp on the system at all. And then, so I started out in an ED as an ER tech, and then became a nurse, and then like there was like a certain level of the glaring issues in the healthcare system as a whole, that you face whenever you realize like what everything looks like and just how limited you are able to care for people sometimes. So I wish that everybody had a better view of like the whole hospital, and then also like I feel like we're not teaching people like why different types of facilities exist and what different types of hospitals. Like, yes, I know that there are, comprehensive stroke centers and primary stroke centers, but like, do you know why like there are, critical access facilities? And it's because there's no other healthcare for like an hour drive. And like they had to have something somewhere where people could get some sort of first aid. And we shouldn't be disparaging these facilities. We should be, just grateful.
Well, a lot of them in Kentucky don't even have doctors.
I mean, there are.
I mean,
there are. Yeah. I mean,
it's real. You be an MP for free because, you go work in one of these facilities.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can, these, and I think like, and I was one of these people whenever I first started, I was like, I work at the level 1 trauma center. I work at the big hospital, like all these other places are just shit, and you get this like elitist mentality, and then you realize like, oh my God, like the system is actually like these places really need, I went and did like some PRN work at a critical access hospital at one point. And I was like, first of all, this is the Wild West. Second of all, oh my God, like I'm so glad this is here.
I mean, if they don't have a hospital, what primary care do they have?
They don't. They don't.
So was it like all in one though at this critical access? Because like where I grew up, 4 beds, 2 of your 4 were the ER.
I've worked at places that had like 30 beds. I've worked at places that had, I have not worked at somewhere that was like 4 beds, 10 beds. I have not.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Like, but those places exist, and like
that one doesn't anymore. It's shut down.
Well, but you know what I mean? Like those places are
all 4 beds.
Those places are really needed, and like I really feel like I had no grasp on how important it was that people were getting care where they live. Because, and we have people who drive hours and hours to come.
They will bypass another hospital.
Yes, yeah, and it's because there's resources here that they need. But whenever you're critically ill, how many times is like, a farmer fall off a tractor, which we've talked about, and like the closest trauma center is 2 hours away, and he's got to get somewhere to be stabilized, hopefully. You know what I mean? Like, these places have it's a real need.
So, like your critical access area, did they have a trauma button in their ER?
No.
They had a trauma button there, so they would hit it, and it would go to a trauma center a couple hours away.
Oh, really? For, like, telehealth?
Yeah, and then that
That's pretty
nurse, or I don't remember who was on the other nurse, doc, I'm not sure, but then they would be telling that nurse in that critical care access center what they need to be doing to stabilize.
Which is awesome.
It was, but when you don't have a background in it, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, there needs to be skilled people everywhere. But I do feel like, from a student standpoint, like, I don't want people to have to make the same mistake I did of being so elitist about, like, I work here, so I'm the best. And it's like, no. Like, some of these people work in these critical access ERs or whatever they're doing critical access. Oh my God. Like, they're freaking God's gift because they can do everything. Some of these places, a respiratory therapist is a luxury item, and you're like, who's going to bag for me? Who's going to do chest compressions? And it's like, you got to go do both. Not really, but no, but you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, but anyways, I digress. We have covered so many things. Jay Easy, thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
On the podcast. It's been
Oh my gosh, thank you. It's so good to see you.
It's been so much fun. No, I mean, your expertise in trauma has been super fun, and your humor has been super fun. I look forward to having you back on. We'll talk about something else, and we'll find a reason to have you back on, I think.
I'm down.
Yeah. I mean, it's been great. So one last plug for the merch store. Please take a look, because I have worked pretty hard on it. Just tell me that it looks good, for God's sakes. codebrewpodcast.myshopify.com. And as always, stay caffeinated, stay curious. Let us know crazy tattoos that you've seen on people, and we'll see you next time on Code Brew. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.